الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Islamic Center at New York University podcast, coming to you straight from the heart of New York City. We're building an amazing Muslim community here at ICNYU where everyone is welcomed and respected no matter where you're from or where you're at. This is the place to be. So open your ears and your heart and come along with us on another life-changing journey. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the master of the day of judgment. I bear witness and testimony to the oneness of Allah, to His magnificence, His omnipotence, His might, His glory, to His being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the master of the day of judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is His servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread in His path until the last day. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran a verse that many of us are quite familiar with, especially at this time of the year. Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alf shahr. That Laylatul Qadr, it is better than 1,000 months. May Allah make us from amongst those who seek it out, witness it, and benefit from it. The fundamental idea in this night of Qadr can only be recognized if we were to reflect deeply upon what it is that brings so many of us in pursuit of it. That in the previous nights and the nights going forward, you can make decisions and an intentionality to stand into the late hours of the night for whatever compels you in particular. Some of you will stand in pursuit of finding healing of pains that have been irreconciled for too long, and may Allah grant you the healing that you seek. Some of you will stand into the late hours of the night, turning to the divine, asking for success in terms of your coursework and classes, both in the pursuit of a degree, but also so that it might potentially become a mechanism through which you could convince unruly parents that you are somebody who's good enough to be married and be married to. May Allah grant you all success in your worldly endeavors and give to you companions that are good for you in this world and in the next. Some will stand in recognition of insecurities of all different kinds, people who are seeking children for themselves, people who long to go to perform pilgrimage to Allah's house, people who are pleading to have arguments and broken ties with family members rebuilt again. Individuals who are seeking to have clarity and decisions and choices. There's so many things that each one of us in this room will turn and invoke Allah by. An end to conflict, a source of replenishment for our sisters and brothers who are refugees. Calling into the nights to the divine, asking for real equity and justice for those who are unjustly incarcerated. An end to racism and arrogance in all of its ugliest of forms. We'll turn and ask of the divine to give guidance to our sisters and brothers who are too zealous in their pursuit of religion and quite often think that they are helping, but in reality are pushing away so many hearts. We'll turn asking for the sake of people around us that their du'as might even be answered. But there's so many things that will compel each of us to turn to these nights. But embedded in every single person's turning, regardless of what it is that is motivating you to stand into the nights, the common variable, whether we are conscious of it or not, is that the only one that is worthy of being asked of is Allah Azza wa Jal Himself, and no one else. That fundamentally, if you were in a place where you were stricken by the weather that we are experiencing right now, where we went from a drastic period of cold to a drastic period of heat, and may Allah make us better caretakers of this earth, and you long for the rain to fall, who else would you ask for the rain to fall other than the one who commands the rains, Allah Azza wa Jal Himself? When you are in a place that is not just of need, that is out of desperation, but a recognition that every single one of us relies on something to exist, and the only one that is worth asking of in any moment, whether it's a moment of achievement, a moment of success, a moment of difficulty, a moment of trial, a moment of grief, a moment of sorrow, a moment of joy, a moment of contentment, the only one who is worthy of being asked of ultimately, that each one of you will buy into, consciously or unconsciously, as you stand into the late hours of the night, invoking in prayer, both in terms of your salah, your dua, and other forms of ibadah, is that you believe that Allah is the one that you should be asking of. We have everybody move in close. There's a lot of gaps. If you have any carpet in front of you, just fill it up, because the room is going to get packed. And this is why it's called Laylatul Qadr. Because Qadr, you can talk about decree and destiny. But Allah Azza wa Jal, in the divine names that He teaches us of who He is, Azza wa Jal, to help us to fathom and understand better in our limited capacity what it is that we have ability to understand. And in our theology, the way that we understand monotheism is not the way that other religions understand monotheism. That we have a negative knowledge of God. It doesn't mean that we have a pessimistic knowledge of God, but we understand who God is by understanding what God is not. Laysa kamithlihi shay, the verse says that there is nothing that's like even a likeness to the divine. And so you start to build a reflection and understanding. And when we have Laylatul Qadr, we are understanding that Allah is Al-Qadir, that He is Al-Qadir, that He is Al-Muqtadir, that all and every form of power and every manifestation of power and control is with the divine Himself. The notion of being able to understand this necessitates recognizing that this is not a religion that pits an all-powerful God against now somehow a similarly powerful source of evil. We have Iblis, may Allah protect us from his whispers. We have the dunya, the materialistic world, may Allah protect us from being fooled by its false shackles of pleasure. We have Hawa, our lower desires. We have the nafs, the lower self. These are our adversaries, but by no means are they anywhere in any comparison of power to what the divine is. And the idea is that when you turn in pursuit of seeking Laylatul Qadr, you're not just seeking out du'as that are for things of this world and the next. You're not just seeking out the formulaic practice of bowing and standing and kneeling and prostrating in conjunction with everyone else. You gotta think about it before you get to it, because the Quran tells us to be people who are thinkers, not people who live in a state of ignorance like cows. Ulaika kal an'am, the verse says, the ones who are heedless, they walk around like cattle. And if you just follow the herd, how are you anything other than a cow? You gotta bring your individuality of intellect to what it is that your worship is about, and not take it to what you believe is its logical ends. It's just the completion of a dua, but really think, why am I turning to this entity with my dua? Because Allah is in control of everything. The beauty that comes from this as we engage in dua to the divine is that it is in Allah's decree. This is why it's qadr, because He is the one that's in control of everything. That you can remove as a capacity from your heart bitterness, jealousy, animosity, envy. Because all of those things that you have, you don't have them because you're more entitled to them than someone who does not have them. The house that you live in or the house you aspire to, and may Allah give us the best of houses in this world and in the next. And make us a means through which those of His creation who sleep in the streets are also given meaningful, dignified shelter. Fundamentally in this idea is the wealth that I have, the affluence that I have, the influence that I have, the degree that I have, the job title I have, the family that I have, the people in my life that I have, the food that I've been given, the clothing that I wear, the cars that I drive, the ways that I move from one part of the world to the next. Allah is the one that decrees it all. And where and how we can build this into an understanding, not in a vacuum, but He is still Ar-Rahman, the most merciful of those who show mercy. He is the most wise, Ahkam al-Hakimeen, the verse says, of those who show wisdom. He is Al-Alim, the all-knowing. He knows you better than you know yourself. It is by all of what we know and what we do not know of our Creator that He decrees what it is that He has decreed. And the solace that comes in turning in dua in these nights is to be able to just simply put into His control what is already in His control in the first place. And not being in a place where my comprehension, my understanding, my recognition is the variable through which I am going to now assess. It doesn't mean that you can't be in a place where you ask why, or that you can't feel the feelings that you feel. Because when the Prophet ﷺ was with Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiallahu anh, and they were going to be with his son Ibrahim, who is an infant child, as Ibrahim is with his wet nurse, and they come and they go, and when they come again, he is taking his last breaths in this world, this little baby. And as the baby passes from the world, tears come to the eyes of the Prophet ﷺ, and Abdurrahman